With my 35 years of experience, our team at US Asset Management can deliver professional investment management, financial planning to help you target your goals, and even specialized divorce financial analysis if you need it. We are here to help you make better decisions with your money. Call US Asset Management today and let's get to work in your financial future. Do you already have your investments with Fidelity? I'm David Cross with US Asset Management. Did you know that you can assign your investment management to my team and put my 35 years of experience to work for you? You simply assign us as your investment manager and you keep the same username and password. Professional management, and you get to work with someone who shares your values. Call US Asset Management today and put us to work for you.
What happens in Georgia gets revealed one by one as the facts are unsealed. From the pit comes what they don't want you to see. When the daily nugget of truth is dropped with your host, BKP.
And we're back. Just like that. We're back. I'm your host, BKP, and you're watching BKP Politics on voiceofruralamerica.com. Glad to have you here. Now it is Wednesday. It's Wednesday. I know some of you say, okay, so what's with the glasses? You come on wearing glasses, and so I have the here and the here. I have the near and far, but this right here, the glasses don't work. Did you get it? Right. So that's what with the glasses. I know someone said to me the other day, said, you come on and you're on there 1 minute, you take the glasses off. But there you go. I'm your host, BKP. Again, you're watching BKP Politics. July 1st, we're into July. Half of the year, 2026. And we're at Saturday, 250 years. Wow. Right? 250 years. That's pretty neat. Considering, if you go doing math, don't do the math on me. Considering I was around in 1976. Yes. 1976. I was around for 1976. Saturday will make 250 years, 50 years later. Now, I made this correction in the article, and but I have to make the correction. We're not like maybe other media outlets or newspapers or whatever you want to call them, online news networks, whatever. We're not like others when it comes to if a correction needs to be made. We'll put it right up front, not bury it at the bottom of the story. But that being said, when I did the 250 year, the fight to restore our constitutional republic, I wrote 1976, Jimmy Carter was president, and that is incorrect. In that article, I made the correction in the article. If you read it, you'll see the correction there. But if you watch the video, I referred to Jimmy Carter being president, and actually it was Gerald Ford. Okay, Gerald Ford was president. There you go. Wanted that correction immediately. Now, here's some of the things we're going to go over today. We're going to go over just a little bit of the U.S. Senate race here in Georgia. We're going to go over the governor's race here in Georgia, right? The governor's race. We're going to talk about the Supreme Court. Because yesterday, make sure I have everything correct here. Yesterday, we have all these rulings that came out from the Supreme Court And we have all what I call the paid social media, agitators, right? They're paid social media agitators. They're there to get you all worked up. I started hearing, why did I ever support Amy Coney Barrett over birthright citizenship? We're going to talk about that. So the social media grifters and people going on there. And I will tell you this, it's disappointing to see the amount of people on social media that don't understand the court, seriously. And some of the information or misinformation, it's disappointing. So we're gonna talk about the Supreme Court, and I want to, in this celebration of 250 years with the Declaration of Independence and the Articles of Confederation, and being a Federalist and an Anti-Federalist, which gave us the Bill of Rights. We have constitutional amendments, but the amazing structure that is put in place as the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. As you know, running a very close second, very, very close second. My favorite jurist, I showed you a book the other day. This one is Scalia, the Supreme Court, the early years, 1986 to 2001. James Rosen wrote this book, Scalia, the early years. He's my favorite jurist. And Samuel Alito, very close second. Now, that being said, so we're going to talk about the Supreme Court. We're going to talk about Democrat Socialist. Yes, Democrat Socialist, not Democrats. Now, for all of the, and I'll get to that in a minute, for all the negatives that they say about the Republican Party and Republicans, and we are not unified, all the above, I get it. But Democrats are a nervous wreck because you have your core base that are cringing over this Democrat Socialist. Remember when Mamdani, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani, ran for office, it was like right up to the end before Chuck Schumer. You even have Obama, Chuck Schumer, all of those Democrats were a nervous wreck, Kathy Hochul, to endorse him because Democrat Socialist. We're going to talk about that because, and what effect or what's going on in Georgia where Democrat Socialists are concerned. And then I'm going to talk just briefly about property tax. And as I said, because it's the 250 years, and I was around in 1976, just great memories of my life in this great country, America. So I'm going to tell a little personal story at the end, and I hope you'll stay with it because I think you'll enjoy it. Okay, so first, right out of the box, let me get this. I took a little extra time to make sure everything was in order today. We're also going to talk about the misinformation, the AJC. Now, the AJC likes to, run with something, knowing they're not reporting news, but trying to create a narrative and trying to create a story that doesn't exist. It happens all the time. We're going to show you this, why you have to be cautious and pause when all of these people put stuff out. Mike Collins, all right? before I go any further, I will vote for Rick Jackson. I will vote for Rick Jackson. And we're going to talk about the Republican Party in the ticket a little later in the show. We're going to talk about the ticket a little later. But I will vote for Rick Jackson. I will not do anything to support Keisha Lance Bottoms. We'll talk about the Jackson campaign and how they are doing coming out of the box against their opponent, Keisha Lance Bottoms, the Democrat. But I will vote for Rick Jackson. I will vote for Tim Fleming. All right. I will vote for Brian Strickland. Now, the reason I say that for Attorney General, I will vote for Tim Fleming for Secretary of State. I will vote for Brian Strickland for Attorney General. Now, I don't want to bring the program and be negative on any of the Republican candidates and hurt our chances to win. But at the same time, I have a dedication of looking you in the eye, and I don't retract, and I'm not going backwards on some things. One, Brandon Phillips. I won't go backwards on Brandon Phillips. Now, I like what just took place with Mike Collins and the guts and courage he had to do this. Because we know, you and I, the American people know, the courts know, we don't know if Joe Biden is aware of it yet, but we know everybody knows that there was at least 11,780 votes out there in 2020. We know that. And we're not going to go and take all this time to lay it back out, the case. But you and I know in the state of Georgia that in 2020, the big phone call between Donald J. Trump, President Donald J. Trump, and Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, that there was 11,780 votes, we'll say in question. Wink, wink, right? So we know that. And I don't like when a politician is asked directly, did Trump win Georgia in 2020? And, you know, they, as you would say, him haul around. That's him haul around. I don't know how you spell it. My dad said it all the time, quit him hauling around, right? But they him haul around and they get around, and there was a lot of inconsistencies and a lot of questionable things that took place. And they make every excuse but to say Donald Trump won 2020, especially here in Georgia. I'll focus on that. Mike Collins did not do that the other day. Mike Collins on 2020, Trump won. No state seems as stuck in 2020 politics. Now, we are not stuck here. We're not, okay? Quit talking down to us. And when I say us, you know, out here, the people that are very interested in accurate, truthful, correct, honest election integrity. Now, we know that. So quit looking down your nose, quit talking down to us, quit telling us that we have to accept 2020 and just put an asterisk next to it. Now, we're smart people. And I say that. You can say ugly things to me. You can call me anything you want. A lack of a better way to put it, we're not stupid. We're not ignorant, okay? We're not dumb hicks. Whatever you want to do. You can call us election deniers, whatever. We know it's 2026. We know that. We obviously know we can't go back to 2020. We know that. But when it comes to the 2020 election, to try to restore the republic, to make sure our Constitution is intact for future generations in this country, We can't let this injustice stand. We can't do it. And so they always have to ask, because then they give these sound bites to Ossoff, they give these sound bites to Keisha Lance Bottoms, but they always have to ask. And CNN, no state seems as stuck in 2020. We're not stuck as Georgia. And Collins just offered the latest reminder, pressed by CNN, Mahu Rajay on Capitol Hill on the outcome. The Trump-backed Collins didn't distance himself an iota, I think that's iota, from the president's false claim about widespread election fraud. Well, folks, we know they continue to say false claim. So let me play what Mike Collins said, okay? I'm going to play that really, and I'm going to tell you what I like that he did that, like I said, most politicians should just look you in the eye, look straight at the camera, say it and move on. Say it and move on.
When the Trump cited his endorsement, he said that Derek Dooley believed that it was Joe Biden who won in 2020 in Georgia. What do you think? Did Joe Biden win Georgia in 2020?
I have said this over and over and over again. You don't change the rules in the middle of the game. And that's what happened in 2020. They changed the rules up. You don't all of a sudden turn around and start mailing out absentee ballots to everybody. You don't set up drop boxes all over the place for people to just start this mass harvesting, ballot harvesting.
Do you think Trump won?
Trump won that race.
In
Yes.
Georgia.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay.
You know, and the thing is, we're gonna make sure in 2026 that we send John Ossoff home.
When the Trump cited his endorsement.
Okay. I'm 100%. I'm not 99. I'm 100% with Mike Collins there. Trump won that race. That I can't remember the last time someone was that solid, made a very firm statement about changing the rules, absentee ballots, drop boxes. Do you think Trump won that race? Okay. So, they're trying to make a big deal out of it. I think Mike Collins is doing fine on the campaign. I think the recent Supreme Court ruling concerning campaign finance could be a benefit, a major benefit to Mike Collins. We'll talk about that hopefully tomorrow. But where Mike Collins is concerned, remember this, all right? Because you've heard me say I'll vote for Rick Jackson. You've heard me say I'll vote for Tim Fleming and Brian Strickland. You did not hear me say I would vote for Mike Collins or Greg Dolezal. You haven't heard me say that. And I've not made that decision. I'm going to be honest with you. Now, I'm not going to discourage you. I don't like that. I'm not here to discourage you from voting. Not at all. I will never do that. I don't like when people do that. I'm not here to tell you who to vote for and why. I will not vote for John Ossoff. I will not do it. And I won't vote for Josh McLaren for lieutenant governor. It won't happen. Now, I will give you one really simple reason. And I know I'm going to get pushback on this, but it is just where I'm at. Now, if Mike Collins was to pick up the phone and call me, because this has me very, very close to voting for Mike Collins. Very close. But if you're new to the program, let me just explain to you my reasoning. When I went to Mike Collins' kickoff campaign, I'm not holding a grudge. All right? When I went to his kickoff campaign event, when he said he was running for office, I bumped in face to face with Brandon Phillips. And I said, "Hi, Brandon, how are you? I'm in North Georgia. If I could be a help, like get you a phone number for a GOP chair or something, hey, we're Republicans. Let me know." The guy looked me square in the eye and said, "We are going to win this with or without you. We're not asking for your help." And he said, "We're not asking for your vote." Okay. Now, since I'm not going to go back on everything that took place, and I'm not going to go back on the ethics investigation into Brandon Phillips, where Mike Collins' office is concerned, I understand Mike Collins fired him. I'm not 100%. I'm not 100%. So if Mike Collins said to me, "Look, Brandon Phillips is fired," okay, I wish him well, he's fired. "And when I'm elected Senate, you can be sure Brandon Phillips will not go to D.C. with me and be a part of my administration as I become your senator," then he has my vote. That may upset you. You may say I'm drawing a line that I should just ignore it, whatever. Absolutely not. So what Mike Collins did right there, actually, I think I enjoy that about as well as anything he's done campaigning. Now, Greg Dolezal running for lieutenant governor, there's a lot of other reasons why, but I have asked Mr. Dolezal multiple times if Brandon Phillips still works on his campaign and if he's still a part of his campaign. And I haven't made that decision on my lieutenant governor vote, but not until I'm very clear on Greg Dolezal. He never answered when I've asked him multiple times if Brandon Phillips still worked for his campaign. So some of you might be here for the first time and say, "What's the big deal?" I'll tell you what the big deal is. Go listen to Jon Ossoff campaign about it. Go listen to the video. Because Jon Ossoff is campaigning and he is talking about Brandon Phillips on the campaign trail. So that being said, Rick Jackson, and I'm not 100% no on the other ones, but I'm not going to say that. Well, that's where we're at. So, Mike Collins, great job. Let's move on. Now, Rick Jackson, I think the campaign has done, and look, I'm a Republican, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to critique any of the campaigns. I don't care what side they're on. I'm going to critique any of the campaigns. I think the Jackson campaign has come out of the box, and I say this, knowing their opponent, prepared for their opponent, going after their opponent, and ready to do this thing. I really do. I've watched everything. I mean, they have put together, Keisha Lance Bottoms represents the failed past. We represent Georgia's future, Rick Jackson. I think that's solid. For Republicans right now, I've said over and over, Keisha Lance Bottoms is the gift that keeps on giving. And they have done a good job. They have gone through video, gone through news reports. They're putting out really great 30-second clips on Keisha Lance Bottoms. So I think the campaign I like the direction. I like the direction the campaign's going. I think I'm optimistic right now running against Keisha Lance Bottoms and how they're approaching it and the way they came out of the box. Now, in time, when they debate and as the campaign develops, we'll see what happens. But today, okay. Now, I know someone said to me the other day, if you say now or okay, they don't like when I say okay. They're placeholders. If you're into broadcasting and you're producing everything yourself, you find placeholders. Okay, moving right along. I say that one. The AJC wants to keep division. They want to keep division. Now, yes, we went through a very, very tough primary season here on the Republican side of the coin. Very tough. All right. Do I think there's still some raw nerves and feelings? Yes. And I think through time, people can get on board. And I think Mike Collins could do a very good job bringing the Burt Jones voters over to Rick Jackson. So I thought that was a pretty good move for Rick Jackson, basically saying to the Burt Jones voters, hey, I'm teaming up with Mike Collins, or, we're working together here. So that was a good move. But that being said, the AJC does not want to see the Republican Party unified. They want to separate in every way. And I've done so many programs in the past. They want to separate Trump supporters. They want to find every little wedge they can put in. So the AJC went out and said most Georgia Senate Republicans are following Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones' lead and withholding their endorsement from Republican nominee for Governor Rick Jackson so far. Well, yes, after the special session and during the special session, it was tense. It really was. And state senators fall under the lieutenant governor's office. The lieutenant governor presides over the state senate. And it's a close-knit group. And yes, it was going to take a minute for state senators, to get on board. And they especially needed to wait till after they finished the special session. But the AJC wanted you and I to think that no one's going to get on board. Jackson action. Most Georgia Republicans are following Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones' lead and withholding their endorsement from Republican nominee for Governor Rick Jackson so far. All right, this is what they published yesterday. Now, this morning, they didn't publish, quote, a retraction. All right. They didn't do that. But this is Larry Walker. I can't remember. I think he's Larry Walker the third. I can't remember. I don't want to misquote that. But he is the Senate pro temp. Now, you have your lieutenant governor, and then you have the Senate pro temp. Right now, basically, he's in charge of the Senate. Now, Burt Jones is still lieutenant governor, but this guy is the power player. He's the power player over there. He just, bottom line, Senate pro temp. Now, we told you, this is the AJC, we told you that only a handful of Georgia senators had wholeheartedly embraced Jackson's candidacy, while others followed Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones' lead with notable silence. Later that day, the Jackson campaign released a pair of letters highlighting, they don't come and say, the AJC doesn't come and say, look, highlighting Republican support from the House and Senate. The AJC does not publish, We were wrong yesterday. We jumped the gun. We wanted to create a narrative that you guys are all divided. Well, Senate Speaker, Senate Pro Temp Larry Walker cleared that up. Here is a letter, June 30th, 2026, and every single state senator in Georgia signed this letter. Right here is 3 pages. Every single one signed the letter supporting Rick Jackson. Then, so the state Senate, 100% support. Now, Rick Jackson, grateful to have the support of the Georgia House and the Georgia Senate GOP. Here is the endorsement from the Georgia House Republicans. John Burns, Georgia House Republicans endorse Rick Jackson for governor, right? And the Georgia Senate Republicans, both of them put out a statement of support Rick Jackson. So right now, Rick Jackson is set up to work with John Burns and the Senate. And I've made this prediction. I think that Rick Jackson is getting working on a very close relationship with Larry Walker, the Senate Pro Tem. That's what I think. One, Rick Jackson doesn't know if it's going to be Josh McLaren or Greg Dolezal as lieutenant governor. And two, he may be able to work with Larry Walker. See, the uncertainty here, and this is an uncertainty, is can Greg Dolezal move to the middle without upsetting his base, go up against Josh McLaren, the Democrat, for lieutenant governor, and win and put a Republican in that office. That's an uncertainty. It really is. I hope Republicans hold the office, but what is certain is that the Georgia State Senate will be Republican controlled. So that's already a fact. So if you're going to start working with someone, laying groundwork in any way whatsoever, you're going to work with the Georgia State Republican Senate Pro Temp Larry Walker. That's just my opinion and what I see. Now, I understand this. I just want to throw this in here. The guy is a billionaire. Has anybody told you that Rick Jackson's a billionaire? So the guy is a billionaire, and he lives, right? Pretty positive. He's in the Georgia, pretty positive. Jackson Healthcare is located in Georgia, U.S. Senate District 7, right? Senate District 7. And U.S. Senate District 7 is represented by Dr. Rich McCormick. Now, don't call him Congressman Rich McCormick because that could upset him. Yes, you have to address him Dr. Rich McCormick, all right? So, U.S. Congressman Rich McCormick endorses Rick Jackson for governor. Now, if you're the congressman and one of your constituents, Rick Jackson, in your district is running for governor and he's the Republican, it's the right thing to do. You come out and endorse Rick Jackson for governor. But should I say a little birdie Does anybody use the little birdie anymore? We'll go with little birdie. A little birdie tells me that Rick Jackson has aspirations. Yes, can't spell it, but I can say it. Rick Jackson has, Rich McCormick, Dr. Rich McCormick has aspirations of running against Raphael Warnock in 2028. I'm pretty sure Raphael Warnock comes up for 2028. We need to fact check that. But I understand this guy wants to run for U.S. Senate against Raphael Warnock. So, A, it's obvious you're going to endorse the guy running for governor in your district, but you might want to stay real close to the money. You might want to stay real close to the money. What did Blazing Saddles, Mel Brooks? I think Rick Jackson is Count de Monet. Yes, I think he's Count de Monet. Because people follow this guy around like it's falling out of his pocket. I'm serious. I mean, what is the book? How to make friends and how to influence friends and whatever. What is that book? Oh, I'm losing track. I know it. But a good way to make a lot of friends is to be a billionaire. That's a good way to do it. Now, moving right along, it's this guy here. I brought him up the other day. This is Brent Cox, okay? Sorry about that. I did not pause my phone. Sorry about that. This is Brett Cox, okay? And he's a state representative, and he actually is the first person, a Georgia state representative. He's the first person to endorse and support Rick Jackson for governor. Rick Jackson is a constituent of his. He is a state house representative, but little birdie tells me he may be interested in moving into the slot for Georgia Congressional District 7, right in behind Dr. Rich McCormick. So you got to stay close to the money. That's Rick Jackson. I'm going to do a graphic. Rick Jackson. Count de Monet. That's who he is. Count de Monet. So I just had to bring that up. It's how it works. It's how it works. It doesn't matter. Here's another one, right? Follow the money. Now, one thing I want to say about Shelley Winter is I don't know what he is being paid. Wink, wink, but come on. Come on. All right? But the one thing I told you, I do like what the Jackson campaign is doing there. They have immediately, when the guy went down and did the interview at WSB with Shelley Winter, the very first thing he did when he left there, right? He went to a Mexican restaurant. I got it. The guy went straight to a Mexican restaurant, took pictures with the staff, right? I get it. Now, Shelley Winters is, I have gotten in a lot of trouble for this, and I mean a lot of trouble. He is angry with me. A lot of people are angry with me. But, you know, I have referred to him as Rent a Brother. I have. That's got me in trouble. People have gotten angry. Some people have said it's racist. I don't think so. Right? I don't think so. But Rent a Brother, Shelley Winters. Now, he's on board with Rick Jackson. He's also on board with John Ossoff. And he's also trying to get things fired up between Dolezal and Josh McLaren for lieutenant governor. But Shelley Winters he's on the team. I don't know, question mark, outside of his WSB gig on the radio, question mark, if he is on the staff or being paid in any way by the Rick Jackson campaign, question mark. I don't know. But boy, I tell you what. Now, I can't blame the Jackson campaign. They want to make inroads because, Keisha Lance Bottoms is going to do very well with black women, period. And minorities in this state, we'll go through that. I think we'll do a full segment on that, the breakdown. And white vote won't carry you across the finish line in the state of Georgia in an election. It just won't do it. Republican vote alone, people that consider themselves Republican, won't carry you across the finish line for a win in the state of Georgia. So you have to be diverse. You have to reach out to other people throughout the state, independents, and as I've said before, pick off a handful of Democrats. So this is Rick Jackson. I went to College Park because every Georgian deserves to be heard regardless of their zip code. All right. Most Georgians want the same things: lower cost, safe communities, and a state government that doesn't waste their money, but is responsive to the needs. They went to the barbershop. Yes. Shelley Winters took Rick Jackson to the barbershop. Go check out the pictures. They're pretty neat. I mean, Rick Jackson went down a barbershop full of black voters and business leaders and community leaders. And Rick Jackson's sitting up there. You will be able to find Rick. I'm sorry. Come on. Don't get all bent out of shape. God, my God. You people are too sensitive. Anyhow, you'll be able to spot Rick Jackson at the barbershop. That's all I'm saying. Just saying. Now, Jackson pivots. The AJC. Jackson held an event with voters at a black-owned barbershop in College Park Tuesday, opening with a description of his own life growing up in Atlanta's Techwood Homes, and then taking questions and suggestions from the audience about his plans for Georgia as governor. The audience included Republicans along with independents, Democrats still undecided in the race. So Jackson is pivoting. Now, I have no problem if Jackson spends 30 days in 30 different barbershops, 30 different Mexican restaurants. Go find China One. Go find a sushi place, whatever. I mean, I'm serious. Go find all these places. I don't care if he goes spends the next 30 days. I get it. Because what have I always said? Right? Well, you know that. You're not new around here. These people are conservative. We're the ones not taking our message to them. They are. I mean, these are good people. I mean, well, they don't look like you. No, they don't look like me. They're good people. They're hardworking people. They own small businesses. They want good schools for their children. They want health care. They want safety. They want security. They want their kids to be able to go to the park and not be worried that someone's going to try to sell them drugs. The whole list goes on. They're good conservative people. We don't take our message to them. So if Rick Jackson spends another 30 days down there, nonstop, go for it. Now, moving right along, we have Jon Ossoff and Keisha Lance Bottoms. Jon Ossoff is running a very good campaign. Easy. I had to dodge the rotten tomatoes and fruit you just threw at the screen. But he's running a good campaign. And the media likes him, and the AJC is going to they're going to swoon. Is that what I'm looking for? All over him. They are. They're labeling him the next Obama, all the above, right? Keisha Lance Bottoms, which the Jackson campaign is doing a great job. Keisha Lance Bottoms, who cannot, you ever listen to this lady talk? She cannot string two sentences together. I mean, she is tied to socialist, Democrat socialist. She can't get away from it. And Ossoff is going to walk a fine line, but Keisha Lance Bottoms will not be able to get away from the Democrat socialist. Will Keisha Lance Bottoms, and we're going to do a full segment next week, right after the 4th of July. I'm working on a story. I'll tell you what I'm working on. I had a 2-hour interview yesterday. I've watched videos. I'm going to tell you what we're working on. Keisha Lance Bottoms. Let me look you in the eye. You ready? Because someone said to me, I love when you do this. Well, let me look you in the eye and tell you this. Keisha Lance Bottoms will usher in Democrat socialism into our state. Now, if you want to close all the prisons, and if you want to get rid of ICE, and if you want to get rid of law enforcement, if you want to do all those things, Keisha Lance Bottoms is going to be the candidate for you. And I'm not just throwing that against the wall to see if it'll stick. Next week, I'm going to highlight, in my next story coming up, we're going to touch on how they're wanting this in Georgia. They don't want Georgia. Let me be very, very clear. Because I came here in 1999. Georgia was turning red. Turning red. And this is part of the story I'm working on next week. 1999. It's 2026 now. Georgia was turning red. Okay, from Democrat control. Democrat control. Now, Republicans are slipping. The media wants you to believe that Georgia is now a purple state. And the media would love nothing more than to start saying Georgia is now a blue state. Not a purple, a blue. They will work and do anything they can, the deep state, corporate, corrupt media, to pronounce the state of Georgia blue. So they want Democrat socialists to come into the state, and they want to support them, and they want to get them in here. They do. Watch. Next week, full story. So Keisha Lance Bottoms, watch what happens. They have polling. I want to throw this out there for the predictions. Okay, I love the prediction side. Watch, because these people have internal pollings. If the polling really starts, as things tighten up, we get closer to Election Day, right after 4th of July, we'll have 30 days. 30 days. So we'll get into August, get close to September, but in that August time frame, watch and see if Ossoff separates from Keisha Lance Bottoms. If it starts to look like they're not campaigning as much together, that would mean Ossoff is concerned that Keisha Lance Bottoms is taking her down. Keisha Lance Bottoms is the gift that keeps on giving here with the Jackson campaign. Now, I want to talk about the Republican Party for just a minute. Just a minute, the Republican Party. Because I have heard this for the longest time. I have heard county chairs, district chairs, Republican Party, county chairs, district chairs, state officers, people across the state, that we should have candidate training, right? We should have different candidate training. And the Democrat Party, here's Charlie Bailey. He is the chair of the Democrat Party. The good news for Republicans, I'll get there in a minute, trained up. Georgia Democrats are trying to turn a burst of statewide momentum into down ballot gains. Yes, I have preached this. I don't like the word preach. Well, I'll go for it anyway. I have preached this over and over. If the down ballot candidates, if the Democrats field down ballot candidates, one more time, if Democrats field down ballot candidates, boy, that one's a tough one, right? And they bring in 1% here or 2% here, and the candidates are good candidates to where they may not win, but they draw people to the polls to vote for them. It works all the way up. The ladder goes up. So if you have a Democrat candidate in a red district and you say they don't stand a chance, if you train them, put them on the ballot, instead of the Democrat getting 30% of the vote, if they get 33, 34, Republican still wins, it pulls up all the way to governor. And they know that. So the National Democrat Training Committee held a campaign training in Atlanta on Saturday, with Democrat Party of Georgia drawing 50 candidates for a full-day session focused on legislative and local races. Now, if the Republican Party has done this with the RNC in Georgia, I don't know about it. If they've really done that. If they've put out a program to train candidates, I don't know that. It could be out there. If they've had district meetings across the state, Republicans, to train candidates, I don't know that. I'm not aware of it. But I will tell you this, if they had the RNC come in and do this, they're certainly not getting any press like the Democrats are. So if you could share with me if that's happened, let me know. But Democrats, they're moving forward. They're plowing. It's my job to warn you. I'm going to get you. I want to pump you up. I don't want to go there. You know what I almost did, right? I want to pump you up to the point that we get excited to go vote. Voter turnout goes up, up, up. We tell our neighbor. I'm going to show you some reasons to go vote in a minute. Multiple ones. So trained up the National Democrat Training Committee. Among the attendees were State Senator candidate Darius Castro and State House candidates Teresa Lynn and Michelle Kang, is that the name? Who are running in competitive districts. They've went to these competitive districts. We have several State House, couple Senate, that are very competitive. They're training their candidates. Democrat Party of Georgia Chair Charlie Bailey told the candidates that winning in November will require strong, organized, prepared campaigns at every level of the ballot. Now, they have opened field offices all around the state. Democrats have opened. This is one I pulled up. We're thrilled to announce the grand opening of the Roswell Augusta Coordinated Campaign Offices. All right? Georgia Democrats are fired up and ready to re-elect Ossoff and elect Keisha Lance Bottoms, and Democrats up and down the ballot. Our momentum is growing. These are field offices Democrats are opening. All right? Here's another picture. We are thrilled to announce grand openings in Duluth, Rome, and Valdosta, coordinated campaign offices. Georgia Democrats. Duluth, Rome, and Valdosta, Georgia Democrats are fired up and ready to re-elect John Ossoff. This mirrors Trump Force 47. Trump Force 47 was a good program. Democrats, they're taking a play right out of that playbook. They're taking something right out of that playbook, and they're putting field offices in. Now, I hope the Jackson campaign. Now, there's no secret here, okay? No secret. I think Josh McCoon, the Republican Party chairman, has failed the party. Period. But don't fear that. Don't fear. I am really concerned. But I hope the Jackson campaign and all the campaigns are working with Caleb Conaway. Now, I've met Caleb Conaway. He is the Georgia Republican Party Executive Director. He's got experience. He's worked in other states. He's worked in some high pressure situations in elections. I'm going to call him a young man. You know, he is. I think he's a great guy. And for all the things that I could say concerning the Georgia Republican Party, I will say I hope the Jackson campaign and the other campaigns are working with Caleb Conaway. I really feel that he is going to put, as corny as it sounds, his best foot forward and work to get the ticket elected. So I hope that's taken place. Now, a little side note before I move to my next Georgia segment, because Keisha Lance Bottoms, the AJC, we're going to get into that. Democrat Socialists. The ticket. I have been asked the question, will you support the ticket? Okay. Republican ticket. Now, I will get the letters will be coming in the mailbox. No, they won't literally. I'll get the emails and the text messages and the posts on X and maybe some ugly comments on Facebook. But I've been asked, are you going to support the ticket? I do not hold the position with the Georgia Republican Party state office. I do not hold a position in the district. I do not hold a position in the county. I'm not an officer in the Republican Party in the county. I'm not an officer in the Republican Party in the district or a state officer. So that being said, I'm considering supporting the ticket, but you have to. If I become the chairman of the Georgia Republican Party, if I was to do that, if I had interest, leave it there, don't say anything, then I would know going in, all right, that my job is to support the ticket. So if you're out there and you're a Republican Party county chair, your obligation, because you put your name forward, sorry to point at you, you put your name forward to be the county chair. You put your name forward to be the district chair. You put your name forward to be on a state officer, and you put your name forward to be chairman or whatever. All that being said, when you did that, you made a commitment to support the ticket. You made a commitment to support the ticket. If you cannot support the ticket, resign today. I'm not mad. Don't take that wrong. I'm not being ugly. Promise. If you cannot support the ticket, resign today. Put somebody in place immediately that will support the ticket, because that's the obligation you made to the party when you took that office. Me? I didn't make that obligation. There you go. Now, do you know who this lady is? Do you know her? She is a Democrat socialist. Now, she's in Colorado. Her platform and campaign. Kairos, is her name Kairos? K-I-R-O-S, Kairos. She ran an insurgent campaign fueled by grassroots enthusiasm, backed by Bernie Sanders. All right? And the Democrat Socialist of America. So keep in mind, this lady I just put on the screen, Kairos, she won in Colorado. Wait a minute. It has something to do with Georgia. She won in Colorado, backed by Bernie Sanders and the Democrat Socialist of America. She positioned the race as a referendum on the Democrat establishment. So if you're a Democrat out there, now I know a lot of Democrats don't listen to the program, but if you're a Democrat out there, you might want to think about where your party stands. Now, I've taken the heat for Republican. If you're a Republican, is that MAGA, whatever? I get it. Well, look, you might want to think about this, which she argued was too reliant on corporate donors and failing to deliver on fundamental change. Her core policies, well, this goes to Georgia, her core policies, she's backed by Bernie Sanders. Keep this in mind, Democrat Socialists. Her core policies, her platform included passing Medicare for all, passing a Green New Deal, abolishing ICE, expanding voting rights. Expanding voting rights means that's code word for illegals. Yes, for illegals. All right. Implementing strict campaign finance and lobbying reforms. She also emphasized codifying our basic needs, which she defines housing, health care, nutritional food, and public education. Their move is from socialism. The word doesn't come across as dangerous. When you hear something, okay? When you hear something, when you see something, how do you absorb that? Socialism or communism? Now, communism, you're not ready to go there. They don't want to say Democrat Communist of America. But if you look at the platform, Colorado's first congressional district, she won Colorado. She won the Democrat. She beat an incumbent in the primary, Democrat primary in Colorado. And the first congressional district, it's solid Democrat stronghold. So Kairos is heavily favored to win the general election. So this Democrat socialist will win. Now, we're going to take this right into Georgia. The historical upset in what is being described as a political earthquake, 29-year-old Democrat socialist Kairos defeated a 15-term incumbent representative, Diana DeGatti, in the Democratic primary for Colorado's first congressional district. Okay? The end of an era. The national impact. Kairos' victory is being viewed as a massive win for the progressive wing of the Democrat Party. It follows the sting of recent upsets by Democrat Socialists of America candidates, including the recent unseating of prominent Democrat incumbent, I can't pronounce that guy's name, but I do know Dan Goldman in New York. She was born in Ethiopia in 1997. She migrated to the United States, born in Ethiopia. Now, let's take it right into Georgia. The AJC, things to know. Good morning. Here's 2 things to know this morning. The AJC is carrying this water, the Democrat Socialists of America, right here into Georgia. I don't care. When you listen to Keisha Lance Bottoms, she is actually a Democrat Socialist of America candidate. She's not a Democrat candidate. She is not. I mean, she is tied to Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is tied to socialist candidates. I'm telling you right now. And that's the reason the AJC, see, Karos, that's the name, Karos, you see? The AJC is running it here in Georgia. Why? Why did they want to bring Democrat socialists to Georgia? Here you go. I'll give you 3 reasons not to vote for Rua Roman. I think that's how you pronounce her name. From left to right. Ready? Here you go. 3 reasons not to vote for Democrat Socialist Rua Roman. Zoran Bondani, New York City Mayor. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Bernie Sanders. Now she is running for Georgia representative, state representative. She's a Georgia state representative. She is running for Georgia State Senate District 7. Okay? Georgia State Senate District 7. Rua Roman. Now, she does not want to represent, this is in Gwinnett County, she doesn't want to represent the people there. She has aspirations to go further up the line, just like Mondani. You see, she started out, she was going to run for governor of Georgia. She actually had a campaign for governor of Georgia. She suspended that and moved to the state level because people were encouraging her and advising her, look, you can infiltrate. These are the words I say. Years ago, we had candidates run for the great America that you and I live in. They love America. They love the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution. Proud to be an American. This is infiltrating. This is not running for office. This is infiltrating, because I will tell you this. Democrat Socialist of America cannot fit in the U.S. Constitution. Their platform cannot fit in the U.S. Constitution. Can't do it. So they're here, New York, Colorado, Georgia, trying to infiltrate this great country. 3 reasons right there on the screen. Now, this is from her website. I didn't just do this. In transparency, I have sit down, I had a cup of coffee, and I met this lady. She's very nice. You're not going to hear me say she's not nice. I'm a capitalist. I'm a Ronald Reagan Republican, fiscal, conservative, constitutionalist, capitalist. I am. And she is not. Now, here she is. This is her website. As you can see on her website, proudly endorsed. Now, she has danced around saying Democrat Socialist, but she's endorsed by Hank Johnson and Bernie Sanders and AOC, and she sure hangs out with those Democrat Socialists. Here she is with AOC. AOC came to Georgia to help infiltrate. Here she is with Zoran Mondani, the mayor of New York City. Here she is, right? Democrat socialist. Now, someone said to me, well, she doesn't look like you. I have to check, make sure I'm still white. I'm having fun. God, I can't say what people don't have fun. But yeah, I have to check, right? Oh, she doesn't look like you. Is it really that she's a Democrat socialist or she doesn't look like you? You know, because when I watch the deep state, corporate, corrupt, left-leaning media, 99.9% of them, but anyhow, they talk about white domination and how, you know, they're stopping the white majority. It no longer exists. So this must be, everything I'm saying must be because she doesn't look like me? No, not at all. Here is her opponent. He doesn't look like, we don't. Her opponent, the Republican for Georgia State Senate District 7, who I would love to be able to vote for, and I would vote for, this is Azaz Sheikh. His name's Azaz Sheikh. Nice young man. Talked to him on the phone. I'm going to do an in-depth interview with him a little later, maybe next week. This is her opponent. He is not. He is a Republican. He's on the Republican ballot. He is not a Democrat socialist. Here's his website. Here is Azaz Sheikh. Here is his website. Okay. And there you go. So it's Azaz Sheikh. He has his issues there that he has, his platform. It's time to shake things up. He's a nice young man, and it's definitely not about anything other than Democrat socialist. So next week I am going to do a full story on how these are not Democrats. We're going to work on it next week. All right. And don't forget, I will get this out here if you want it, but here are the 3 reasons not to vote for her. Zoran Mondani, AOC, and Bernie Sanders. We'll talk more about that. We've got to get the vote out. We need to stop this in its tracks, Georgia. So here's what I'm going to do, because I want to do a national segment now, more of a national segment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a quick commercial. So I got a clean break. I'm going to run a quick commercial. And when we come back, don't go anywhere. When we come back, my next segment, we're going to talk Supreme Court, because 250 years, I want to switch gears, Supreme Court. I would tell a little story in my next segment, but I want to break it up so I can put it out on the internet and put it into 2 different articles to not make it so long. So stay with me. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after these brief messages. Supreme Court. Think about that. Think about that. Do you really dislike Amy Coney Barrett? Well, we'll talk about it in just a minute.
With my 35 years of experience, our team at U.S. Asset Management can deliver professional investment management, financial planning to help you target your goals, and even specialized divorce financial analysis if you need it. We are here to help you make better decisions with your money. Call U.S. Asset Management today, and let's get to work in your financial future. Do you already have your investments with Fidelity? I'm David Cross with U.S. Asset Management. Did you know that you can assign your investment management to my team and put my 35 years of experience to work for you? You simply assign us as your investment manager and you keep the same username and password. Professional management, and you get to work with someone who shares your values. Call U.S. Asset Management today and put us to work for you.
What happens in Georgia gets revealed one by one as the facts are unsealed. From the pit comes what they don't want you to see. When the daily nugget of truth is dropped with your host, BKP.
And we're back. I'm your host, BKP, and you're watching BKP Politics on voiceofruralamerica.com. As we head into 250 years. 250 years, right? Wow. Now, I said this earlier in my first segment today. I said, you know what? I was there in 1976. And we are 50 years later, 2026, this Saturday, celebrating 250 years. Now, one more time, in an article I wrote earlier this week, 250 years, the fight to restore our constitutional republic. I put in the article that Jimmy Carter was president of the United States. I had to make a correction on that. I corrected it in the article, but I want to be clear with the audience. Gerald Ford actually was in office president of the United States during the bicentennial. Now, I want to do this for the simple reason because I absolutely love the Declaration of Independence. Okay. I love the Declaration of Independence. I love studying, when I get time, the Articles of Confederation. I love the Founding Fathers discussing, hey, we have to be able to fund a military to protect the states now. We can't have different pockets of confederations. We can't have 3 states here, 3 states here. We could have the strongest states come together, put their own, union together. Some of the other states can't sustain because, maybe their agriculture and this state is more industrial, whatever it may be. So I love studying the creation of that great document, the Constitution of the United States. In the Constitution of the United States, we have amendments that took place. Lawmakers throughout the years. We got the Bill of Rights. I love discussing the Federalist Papers. And then we have the Anti-Federalist publications, which led to the first Congress enacting the Bill of Rights. I love all that stuff. I know I'm rushing through it. And we have the greatest system in the world with our executive branch, and we do talk quite often about the powers of the executive branch and the Founding Fathers not wanting a king. We did not want a king. We did not want a monarchy. So we put things in the Constitution for the powers of the executive branch, the president. We put powers in there for the legislative branch, the Senate and the House of Representatives, which come together, makes a Congress, right? And we created the Supreme Court. Now, I love studying all the branches. I think I've told you before, my favorite jurist is Antonin Scalia, my favorite one. That's in an article I released earlier this week. Samuel Alito, associate justice? But Samuel Alito is becoming very, very close second there to Scalia as far as favorite jurist. Now, the Supreme Court is my favorite for a couple reasons, and I'm going to show you that. And I think it's interesting that in the last couple days, the paid agitators, okay, they are the paid social media agitators. They're on there just to whoop you up into a frenzy, get you all worked up, upset. They and the social media grifters, and they're on there and they're bad-mouthing John Roberts, and they're bad-mouthing Brett Kavanaugh, and they're bad-mouthing Amy Coney Barrett, and they're going on and on. Let me just say this. You do realize we are just a vapor in time. Seriously, I mean, you know, if the good Lord's willing, I say that, not just throwing it out there. I am a believer that all that we do is if the good Lord's willing. If the good Lord's willing, you live to 70, you live to 80, you live to 90, 93, 103, whatever. But no matter what our years that God grants us on this earth, we're a vapor in time. And our Constitution and our independence, our Constitution and our three branches of government are set up, our founding fathers set it up, not just for you and I, but for your grandkids and their grandkids. It works. Oh, yes, it works. So there's going to be bumps along the way. There's going to be rulings you don't like. But I'm going to show you some things. The Supreme Court. I didn't get quite as upset as some people. Now, we're going to start on this one for a reason. I'm going to start here for a reason. Excuse us. There you go. Now, here's the reason I'm starting here. Because I did not agree with the ruling on the birthright citizenship. I did not agree with it. So let's start here and let's go over a little bit of our Supreme Court of the United States. The Supreme Court handed down the landmark Roe v. Wade decision. Now, Roe v. Wade was totally unconstitutional, but it was handed down in 1973, January 22nd, 1973. 1973. Roe v. Wade. Now, we've allowed the murder of unborn children at 1973. Now, look at here. These are, it was a 7-2 vote. Because I keep hearing about all these votes. And birthright citizenship, was 5-4. This was a 7-2 vote. Right? And here is the justices that day. Thurgood Marshall, I think that's his name, right? Thurgood Marshall, a black Supreme Court jurist, I think the very first. We'll fact check that. But look at, this is the Supreme Court makeup that handed the 7-2 verdict of Roe v. Wade. Now, in 1973, we have a 7-2, Roe v. Wade, 7-4, Blackmun, right? Blackmun, M-U-N, Burger, the Warren Burger Court. Remember, don't forget, Chief Justice, the Burger Court, Douglas, Brennan Jr., Stewart, Marshall, Thurgood Marshall, Powell, White, and William Rehnquist. This is who gave us in 1973, right? Abortion. 7-2. Only two dissented, William Rehnquist and Byron White. Now, look at this court makeup. I'm going to show you this makeup. This is the court, Sandra Day O'Connor, Clarence Thomas, right? Now, this is the court right here. Antonin Scalia's on there. So the court's starting to turn in a conservative type favor, but we're hoping this is the court. Remember, 1973, it's 2026. We are hoping, Americans, that this is the court that will overturn Roe v. Wade. And we had a Supreme Court case, and in 1992, so 73 to 92, the Supreme Court decided Planned Parenthood of Southeastern Pennsylvania, Casey, on June 29, 1992. Now, this is not a quote, but this is where Antonin Scalia, Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia, thought, right, that the Rehnquist, now they call it the Rehnquist Court. You have the Burger Court, now you have the Rehnquist Court because he's the Chief Justice now at this time. All right? So, the Rehnquist Court, Antonin Scalia thought this was the case. Planned Parenthood of Southern Pennsylvania versus Casey in 92. Overturned Roe v. Wade. All right? Because we had Sandra Day O'Connor, a woman, appointed from Arizona by Ronald Reagan. And Sandra Day O'Connor, the only way I know to say this for pro-life activists, failed us. This was a Ronald Reagan appointment, which I'm a Ronald Reagan Republican, failed us. Do I think Ronald Reagan put her on the court knowing that? But here's the makeup of this case. In 1992, the vote breakdown, Casey was highly complex and fractured decision. The final vote was generally considered a 5-4. So it went from a 7-2 to a 5-4. Sandra Day O'Connor, right, co-authored the rare joint majority opinion. I've read the opinion on that. The dissent was Rehnquist, Scalia, White, and Clarence Thomas. Now we're moving the right direction. This is a 5-4 decision. We thought we had Sandra Day O'Connor in 1992, a Reagan appointee to the Supreme Court, but we didn't get it. Now, moving right along, I think I have a really great finish to this that you will enjoy. I know you're not happy with what the Supreme Court said, but our 250-year celebration as a country and our system, it's intact. It really is. It's intact. It's up to us to lose this, and we can sustain, we can get this on the right track. Now, the Supreme Court officially overturned Roe v. Wade June 24th, 2022. June 24th, 2022, from 1973. It was unconstitutional in 73. Look at the fights, the battle, nonstop. But what did it take to do that? It took Republican presidential appointees to the Supreme Court. Right? In the case Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, here is the Roberts Court. So we have the Burger Court, the Rehnquist Court. You have the Roberts Court, right? There'll be another court one day that'll be named after the Chief Justice, but this is considered the Roberts Court, John Roberts, Chief Justice. Here is the Roberts Court that decided the case. All right, right here. Let me show you a picture. Let's go with the actual case. All right. Here it is, a 5-4 decision. Alito, Thomas, Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett. John Roberts voted to uphold the Mississippi law, but against entirely overturning Roe. Now, that's what happened in the birthright citizen case. A justice can vote to affirm the law before them, but say, I'm not striking down this nationally. And that's what happened in the birthright citizenship. We'll talk about that in a minute. But here you go. Who are the dissents? Right? 2022. Stephen Breyer, Sonia Sotomayor, and Elena Kagan. So on this day, I was watching social media, and the paid agitators and the grifters on social media and the loudmouths, people with a loud mouth that just spout out any ugliness, people that do not take into consideration that this system works, whether we like the outcome of the court or not. Amy Coney Barrett voted to overturn Roe v. Wade. Brett Kavanaugh, Neil Gorsuch, Clarence Thomas, and Samuel Alito. So in a 5-4 decision, three of the five came from President Donald J. Trump. On that day, they were heroes. Now, here is the actual court we're talking about today. Here's the court. Amy Coney Barrett, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, Ketanji Brown Jackson, Elena Kagan, Antonin Scalia, John Roberts, Clarence Thomas, and Sonia Sotomayor. I do like the court, so I know all their names. I told you I like the court. All right, so I like the court. I like the judge, just as long as I'm not standing in front of them. As long as I'm not saying Your Honor. All right, jokingly, moving right along here. Now, the Supreme Court handed down its ruling regarding state bans on transgender athletes in the girls' women's sports yesterday. Now, every politician I watch talk about girls' sports and protecting girls' sports. Right? Riley Gaines Act, protecting girls' sports. This court that some are going way out there on, this court said in a 6-3 decision. 6-3 decision. Now, here's where I'm going to start making a point, because I actually look at the court when I go vote, and I think about who's going to be my next president and how serious it is to keep the Senate confirmation in Republican hands. In 2026, the court ruled 6-3 along ideological lines to uphold state laws that prohibit transgender girls and women from participating in female scholastic sports, while the court was actually unanimous 9-0 in deciding that the state law does not violate Title 9. Very important, something we can talk about on a different day. This does not violate Title 9, which protects equal participation with girls in sports Get into that on a different day. The justice split 6-3 on whether the bans violate the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause. Now, this was a 6-3 decision. Brett Kavanaugh, John Roberts, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Neil Gorsuch, Amy Coney Barrett. Now, three of the six, even John Roberts, but 3 of the 6 Donald Trump appointees. Who got it wrong? Who always gets it wrong? The Democrats. Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, Ketanji Brown Jackson. They always get it wrong. They get it wrong. Democrats. So stay with me here. Look at another one. Here's another ruling from the court. 2026, the court ruled 6-3 to strike down executive order affirming the 14th Amendment, guarantees citizenship. So let's talk about that one for a minute. To nearly everyone born in the U.S., this was a 6-3 decision. So, John Roberts went with Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, Amy Coney Barrett, and Ketanji Brown Jackson. So John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett went with the 3 in a majority. Brett Kavanaugh, he struck down the order, but based on federal law, not Constitution. So what Brett Kavanaugh did, and I am not a constitutional scholar, I don't even play one on TV, and I won't pretend to be a constitutional scholar. But I have to tell you, I am actually more a constitutional scholar than these paid agitators on social media that have no idea what they're talking about, and most of the people on the round tables of these networks. But Brett Kavanaugh opened the door to say, look, Congress, go through Congress, pass a law. Now, it's not that simple, but he opened the door and said, not the Constitution. Voted to strike down the order, but based on federal law, not the Constitution. You follow me? So, moving right along, you have Clarence Thomas. You have, Brett Kavanaugh's considered a majority. Brett Kavanaugh, is considered a majority in the ruling on birthright citizenship. You have 3 here, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, and Neil Gorsuch in the dissent. So I'm planning to read the dissent. I haven't. Now, this is birthright citizenship. So if you go look this up, and I understand the argument, I get it. I get the argument, and I'm going to make maybe a personal comment here in a minute. Before the 2026 ruling, the last time the Supreme Court directly decided a core challenge to birthright citizenship for the children of non-citizens was 128 years ago in a landmark case in 1898. The case was the United States versus Wong Kim Ark. Wong Kim Ark was born in San Francisco to Chinese immigrant parents. After taking a trip to China to visit family, he was denied re-entry to the United States. The government argued that because the Chinese Exclusion Act, if you go look up the Chinese Exclusion Act, prevented his parents from ever naturalizing as U.S. citizens, Wong Kim Ark could not be a citizen either. He couldn't be one either because his parents could not be one despite being born on American soil. Now, this case, again, was in 1898, the Supreme Court. Here's the vote, 1898. One justice, let's see, here we go. It was a 6-2 ruling, a 6-2. And the decision established the bedrock legal precedents that the 14th Amendment phrase, subject to jurisdiction, therefore, applies to almost everyone born in the U.S. territory, regardless of their parents' citizenship or immigration status. Now, this is a case that's on the books, and I'm not saying this is totally line item for line item the same case, but keep this in mind. This was in the 1800s. Now, I will give President Donald Trump credit, and a lot of credit, for doing the executive order and putting it out there. No one has had the courage to do it, and Donald Trump did. But he did lay the groundwork, just like Roe v. Wade, just like other cases where they've had to come back to the court, and the groundwork was laid. So although I am upset with the ruling on the birthright citizenship yesterday, and I feel they should have upheld the executive order, but at the same time, I'm not totally upset with the way it can move forward. And I'll get into another comment here. As you can see, you only had 2 dissent, 2 in this case. It was a 6-2. Said he was a citizen. He won. Said he was a citizen. All right? Now, here is the actual court. Here is the portrait of the court in 1898. This is called the Fuller Court. Remember, we've had Supreme Courts, the Fuller Court, right? The Burger Court, Rehnquist Court, John Roberts Court. Here they are. Look at these guys. Now, do these guys look like, and these are all white men, And this was a Chinese immigrant, a citizen. They determined a citizen to 2 Chinese immigrants in this country. And he was born here. Do they look like liberal leftists? Do they look like liberal jurists? Do they look like a liberal court? I don't know. So, keep something here. Chinese immigrants helped build the railroad. The western half of the Transcontinental Railroad, the Central Pacific Line, was built overwhelmingly by Chinese immigrants. All right? We had thousands of Chinese immigrants in here building our railroads. We brought them in to build the railroads. Just saying, okay? I do think the republic can be restored. I do think we can power through as the great America, the US of A that we are. Now, I want to go into some other things on the Supreme Court. Trump versus the United States, the immunity ruling, right? People were happy that day. The immunity ruling. The liberal left was all upset. Decided on July 1st, 2024, the most consequential case regarding presidential power in modern history. The court ruled that former presidents have absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for actions that fall within their core executive constitutional authority. What was this ruling? 6-3. 6-3. Roberts, Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett. 6-3. Who got this wrong? Sotomayor, Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson. They got it wrong. People were on there cheering that day. Now, here's another one. We'll go into one more. firing power. Now, I am concerned that Lisa Cook, the governor of the Atlanta Federal Reserve, right? Donald Trump fired her, and the Supreme Court said you can't fire her. I'm concerned about that one. But look at this one here. Firing power. The executive firing power. Donald Trump had the courage and the nerve to go forward with this. In the past, presidents were in fear of these behemoth bureaucracies, these agencies. They were in total fear that they could not fire anyone. Donald Trump had the courage to move forward with this, take it to the Supreme Court, and we have a 6-3 decision. This is big. Decided just days ago in late June 2026, the case presented a massive victory for Trump's agenda to consolidate control over the federal bureaucracy. This blown up government, they can control it now. For nearly a century, Congress has protected certain independent federal agencies like the Federal Trade Commission, the Federal Reserve, and the SEC by stipulating that the president can only fire their leaders for cause, meaning incompetence or malfeasance, rather than simply because of political disagreement. Rather than. In the Trump slaughter case, the conservative majority overruled those decades of presidents. They ruled that such restrictions violate the separation of powers and that the president has the constitutional authority to fire top executive branch officials at will. 6-3 decision. Roberts, Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Barrett, Amy Coney Barrett. Who got it wrong? The 3 Democrats. They got it wrong. They got it wrong. The 3 Democrats. Now, our side is not. Our side is not. They're not unified. They're not unified. We use our Republican presidents use a better, I'm going to say litmus test. I don't think that's correct. I don't think we should say it that way, than Democrats. Democrats just come in, and if you do not commit 100% to their Democrat agenda, you're not going to be on the Supreme Court. And they get away with it. Okay? They always take our nominees, the Republican side nominees, and they go after them on abortion. They go after them on gun rights. They go after them on every single thing possible, to where we actually do not have thorough, good Supreme Court nominee vetting. We don't anymore. I mean, Justice Bork, right? Justice Bork, and he wasn't a justice of the United States Supreme Court, but Bork and Clarence Thomas, although Clarence Thomas is on the court, that's when we started to end true Supreme Court vetting that you and I need to know before someone goes on the court. They did that to our nominees, but Democrats, behind closed doors, if they're not 100%, they're not going to the court. So, again, you just had a case. Who blew it? 3 Democrats. Now, they always get it wrong. Here's another case. And I'm not glossing over the birthright citizenship. But recently, right? This is a big deal. In the recent Supreme Court case, Louisiana versus Calles, right? In Louisiana, April 29, 2026, the court ruled in a 6-3 decision that Louisiana's constitutional redistricting map, which created a second majority black district was unconstitutionally racially gerrymandered. Now, things that are clearly unconstitutional, we are getting 6-3 clear decisions from the court. Now, on the birthright citizenship, someone that I have a lot of respect, well, I'll get into that in a minute. Now, here you go. The majority, 6. Alito, Roberts, Thomas, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett. The 3 that got this wrong, again, Kagan, Sotomayor, and Ketanji Brown Jackson. So let's go through justices and how they've been appointed. Ronald Reagan appointed Sandra Day O'Connor in 1981. First female appointed to the court. Ronald Reagan. She let us down. She really let us down. Over what? Roe v. Wade. Yes. Amy Coney Barrett, you feel let you down over birthright citizenship. She didn't let us down on Roe v. Wade. But Sandra Day O'Connor let us down. Now, Reagan, keep this in mind, Reagan appointed Sandra Day O'Connor, Antonin Scalia, and Anthony Kennedy. Now, you can look there. Really, only one, Antonin Scalia, was really the conservative justice that we wanted. But those are Reagan appointees. Now, we're going to move forward to George W. Bush. Now, some of us don't really care for George W. Yeah, some of us don't. He doesn't make our favorite president list, but George W. gave us John Roberts as Chief Justice. Now, I know how you feel about John Roberts, and I know his decision on Obamacare has upset most conservatives throughout the years, and actually that's where most conservatives just said they're through with John Roberts, but George W. But on the other hand, George W. gave us Samuel Alito. Now, George W. is off, salsa dancing with Michelle Obama at the Obama Presidential Library, and I say that jokingly, but, he's been out of office how long? But these cases that are being heard, Samuel Alito, Supreme Court's a serious appointment. My second favorite, Samuel Alito, where'd he come from? George W. Bush, right? So let's go up to getting it wrong. Now, we have 3 justices that always get it wrong. Where'd they come from? Now, on our side, we have cases that we get upset with our justices, but they don't always get it wrong. They're the Supreme Court. Now, here you go. Barack Obama gave us 2 out of 3. Kagan, right? Sotomayor, he gave us 2 out of 3. They're always wrong. Always. Then, Joe Biden, right, gave us Ketanji Brown Jackson. So every Supreme Court ruling we have that we see the 6-3, you see Democrats always get it wrong. We don't always get it wrong. I understand. I'm not trying to create an out or make excuses, but we don't always get it wrong. Our Republicans don't always get it wrong. In fact, Republicans get it right more times than wrong, because look where we're at. We have some major decisions, redistricting, right? Major decisions that have been made by the Supreme Court. Deporting illegals. So, as we move along here, here's my concern. Because the Supreme Court is being taken to task. Here's my biggest concerns. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, these are 3 justices that are being talked about retiring. So when we start into 2028, we start talking about presidential, and we go into 2026, we actually need Mike Collins to be John Ossoff. We need the majority Senate. We need the majority in the House of Representatives. We don't need to be wasting any time after the midterms with impeachment of Donald J. Trump. We don't need to be wasting any time with war. We don't need to be wasting any time. We need a Senate majority that is strong. Now, I'm going to look at you and tell you one more thing that you don't like in a minute. You're going to really throw something through the camera at me. But we need a Senate because we may lose. When you look at 6-3, you may be upset with that birthright citizenship decision. But Clarence Thomas is 78 years old. There's talk that he might retire. Samuel Alito, 76 years old. And Sonia Sotomayor is 72. Donald Trump could possibly put 3 more justices on the court. I know. You are like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I'm telling you, that needs to be where we're at. You see, this is the court today. And you have Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas that were not Donald Trump appointees. Samuel Alito goes all the way back to George W. Was Clarence Thomas appointed a George H. Bush? His dad? I think so. Anyhow, moving right along. And then Sonia Sotomayor. There's 3 people always get it wrong. One of them's leaving. There's 2 people that tend to always get it right. For me, that's Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito. We need to get focused, get our vote out. We need to get focused to put Republicans in there. All right? We need to get focused and make sure our Senate is in the majority to put these candidates forward. We need to get focused and make sure Donald J. Trump is ready with names and who is putting these names forward. Because I'm going to tell you, on the top is Amy Coney Barrett, Neil Gorsuch, and Brett Kavanaugh. And I tell you what, I'm okay with all 3. I'm not pleased with some decisions they made. I'm not pleased with the dissent in some of these rulings that they've participated in. But in the core of the things that have come before the Supreme Court, transgender girls, or transgender, you can't say girls or not, playing in women's sports, right? Competitive women's sports. I have a granddaughter that plays softball. Absolutely not. So we have to get serious about the next 3 Supreme Court justices. I think if a case is clear cut, and I say clear cut, I think if a case is clear cut, Amy Coney Barrett, Neil Gorsuch, and Brett Kavanaugh, if it's what I say truly unconstitutional. Now, let's go past this for a minute. If you're going to read, I want to make a recommendation because I am not a Supreme Court I am not a Supreme Court, a constitutional professor in any way whatsoever. But if you're going to read to get an understanding, go to Jonathan Turley. Go on X, Jonathan Turley, Turley. He's a law professor, New York Times best-selling author, legal analyst. Rage and the Republic is his book. His name's Jonathan Turley. I recommend. Now, he said something yesterday. I can't quote him, but I get the impression he's disappointed that there could have been a very strong argument against birthright citizenship. That, now someone's just a plane ride away from being a citizen in America. They can come here at 9 months pregnant, go to a hospital. There you go. That's a citizen. I get that. But he also covers in great detail why the justices may have ruled the way they did. So if you really want to get away from all the paid agitators on social media and the grifters and the people that are just running their mouth, only way to put it, go to Jonathan Turley, read his work, okay? Bottom line. So we are a vapor in time. It's 250 years. We've survived 250 years. We can have a court. Our next court needs to be 3 more justices from Donald J. Trump. We don't need to pack the court like the Democrats want to do. They want to put, I think 2 more. They want to go to 9 or something. Wait, we have 9, right? What do we have? A 6-3 is 9. Boo. 11. They want to go to 11. They want to pack the court. All right. We need to stand up, be firm. And on the birthright citizenship, the door's open. Because on the birthright citizenship, don't put the pressure on our Constitution to correct what our politicians allowed to happen to our country. And I say that. You see, Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, these people didn't allow 30 million people to come to this country. They didn't allow it. They didn't allow, these cities to sanctuary cities to hide these people, and we have children all over. They didn't do that. Now, I know they're supposed to uphold our Constitution, but let's actually hold responsible the ones that are trying to destroy this country. Not put all the pressure on the Supreme Court to always correct what our politicians have corrupted. Nobody said we should have let 30 million people in here. Anchor babies. I mean, I have a family member. One time my dad, and I never speak ill of my dad, and I'm not speaking ill of my dad today, we had the birthright citizenship discussion in the kitchen, as we always do. We covered every issue in the kitchen. Kitchen was court in our house. And I said something, and I forget, being opposed to it. And my dad looked at me and he said, "Son, if you're born in the United States of America, you're a U.S. citizen. If you're born here, you're a U.S. citizen." Now, I think we had a little more discussion besides that. But I'm telling you, the court, we better stop and think. We need 3 more Donald Trump appointees. And again, it's 250 years. We're celebrating 4th of July. We've had some great rulings. We have finally put a court together that upholds Constitution and common sense. The common sense of transgenders playing in our girls' sports. So, as we wrap up, get ready for the 4th of July, I want to tell a quick story. I promise I'll be very quick, and I hope you'll stay for this, all right? Because this goes all the way back to 1976. And taxes. I'm going to do a story on taxes next week. I'm trying, 4th of July. Let's not get too controversial, right? But I understand the need to have revenue to provide a military, not a Pentagon, a behemoth. Well, that's a subject for another day. But I understand that's necessary. I'll get it. But me, myself, I'm really not into taxes. Taxes, you know me out there. This is not new. So I keep hearing Georgia's tax debate, raise sales taxes to lower property tax. I keep hearing the tax debate. And next week, I'm going to get into it very thoroughly and very deep because I don't like taxes. Now, I've had people say, how did this happen? Where did this happen to you that you're so adamantly against taxes? So I've told this story a couple times, and I'm going to tell it briefly right there. That's the reason I don't like taxes. Now, first of all, please don't get upset with me. I really don't want you to get angry, but I don't like soccer. I don't like soccer. I don't like the World Cup. I don't watch the World Cup. I'm straight out of the 70s. I told you before. I spent some time in the 60s. Not going too deep. But the core of my young childhood existence is 1970 to 1980. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm from. A foreign today would be considered a foreign land. I mean, wow, unthinkable what I lived through in the 70s and survived. But baseball. Now, I love baseball. I think baseball is the all-American game, apple pie, baseball, sitting in the stands. I love baseball. I would drive through this country and stop anywhere I seen 12-year-old kids playing baseball. I don't have to know the kids, anything about them. I can just sit in the stand and watch them play baseball. In fact, I told my wife, I said, when I retire, I'd like to buy an RV. Still smoking cheap cigars. Don't try that at home, kids. No. But anyhow, I'd like to buy an RV and just go across the country and go to every Major League Baseball park and every minor league baseball park and watch college baseball. Even if I pass by and I see a little league game, stop. And I'd like to do that when I retire. And my wife said, well, I hope you have a good time and I wish you well. So that's how that went over. Now, baseball. So I grew up in a neighborhood, as you well know, and it's America. And I tell you the story the other day, the great melting pot is the biggest lie we were ever told in the 70s. So I grew up in a neighborhood with Jewish kids, okay? Jewish kids, Catholic kids. We had black kids in school. We had Germans, Yugoslavians, all right? And we played baseball in the summer. We played a doubleheader. We played in the morning game. We had a morning game and an afternoon game. And how did it work? We met at the ball field, right? And we had enough kids for two teams. I mean, we had, and you know how you learn to play the outfield? What if you had 8 kids and you only had 2 outfielders? I mean, you're 10 years old and you learn how to run halfway across center field and catch a ball. Seriously, right? So that being said, we played a morning game until we got into a fight. We didn't have parents to come and solve it for us, right? And then we went home because somebody said they nipped the ball. Foul tip. I nipped it. Someone said they didn't. It was strike 3, right? Or they were out at second. You didn't have an umpire, so you got to call your own game. All the above. So you played until that happened. You went home. You're 10 years old. We'll throw 10 years old. In the afternoon, you went back for game 2. And we'll get into how did you pick who picks first, the team? Throw the bat in the air and catch it. right? Come on. What kids, soccer? Anyhow, so we play an afternoon game. So we would play and we would throw a baseball everywhere in a backyard. It didn't matter until we did what? We lost the baseball. Now, when we lost the baseball, right? This is America. I love this country. So when we lost the baseball, what happened? We had to come up with 98 cents. 98 cents. Right? And we had to go to Rockaway Sales, the hardware store. We had to go to the hardware store. Because back then, the hardware store had a full baseball section. Hardware store. We'd go right past the wheelbarrows, the shovels, the metal toolboxes that we knocked down. We did. We'd knock a display down, right? But half the time we were not allowed in the store. The manager would push us out. But that being said, so you play baseball until, right, you lost the baseball. Then everybody dispersed, went home to find a quarter, a nickel, some pennies, and you got back together and you came up with the 98 cents. So when you got the 98 cents, put them in your little plastic change purse. We all got on our Huffy bikes. We didn't really like the kids that rode a Schwinn, but we had a couple kids that rode a Schwinn. We got on our Huffy bikes and we headed to Rockaway Sales. We rode, I think it was 2 miles, the back road into town. Parents didn't even know we left. Our parents didn't even know we left. They didn't know we lost the ball. Mom would yell, "What are you doing in this house? You're supposed to be outside playing." "I'm looking for a dime, Mom." "Well, find it and get out of here." Seriously. Okay. So we got our 98 cents together, got on our bikes, headed into town. Nobody even knew we were gone. We're in Rockaway Sales, and I get a baseball. And I walk up to the counter, and the man says $1. I tell this story all the time. I'm serious. This is, I think I'm 8, 9, maybe 10. I don't know. He says $1. I looked right at him. I said, "No, it's 98 cents. He said, "You forgot the tax." The what? This was worse for me than the Boston Tea Party. Yes. I now all of a sudden understood why they went against the king. Taxation. Not able to play ball over 3 pennies. I'm serious. I remember it like it's yesterday. 101. 101? You forgot the tax. I said, "You'll need to explain that to me." It may not have been said exactly that way. "You'll need to explain that to me." Well, there's tax. What's tax? So anyhow, so we got the baseball and we went home. From that day on, I have been anti-tax. That is a true story. I swear, from that day on, I did not understand why they needed my money. What were they doing with it? So it's all, you might take it as a joke, but I love baseball. I knew why that Tea Party happened. So now, this is a baseball glove. This is a first baseman's mitt. Back then, you had to save your money up to buy a glove. You saved it up. Your parents didn't go buy you things like that. You saved up your money. You wanted the first baseman's glove. You went and got it. Right? Now this is another one. Remember back, Reggie Jackson came to I liked Reggie Jackson when he was with the Oakland A's. He came to the Yankees. I can't remember what year he went to the Yankees. But Reggie Jackson, I think it was 77 or something like that. But you remember when we were kids, we would go into the store and we bought a glove based on the name that was etched in the center of the palm. Reggie Jackson, whatever our hero was. We would go through every glove looking for who our baseball hero etched right in the center. And we would get that glove. Yes. And there's another thing about that glove. And it's just things the kids today. America is baseball. I don't like soccer. And, you would go home, you would take that glove, it'd be stiff. So you would buy a can of glove oil and you'd rub that glove down. Then you put the baseball in the right spot. Put that baseball in the right spot of that baseball glove. And then you get a belt. You get that glove and you pull that belt tight. And what do you do with it? You sleep with it under your pillow. Your mom like, what are you doing? I'm trying to break in the glove, Mom. You went to bed, your baseball glove was under your head with a baseball in it where you had rubbed it down with oil and put a belt around it. Oh, I could break in a glove. Then I wanted a catcher's mitt. Remember that? A catcher's mitt. So I want to give you one more thing as we wrap up today. This is just some childhood memories. And like I said, 250 years, America. This is Tom Seaver with the Mets. My dad used to take us to Shea Stadium when I was a kid to see Tom Seaver pitch with the Mets. I may get teared up. My love, absolute love for this country, I may get teared up. My dad used to take us to see Tom Seaver pitch. Oh, I've been to the Yankees old-timer game. But I'll never forget this. And here's another one. This was like a game I'll never forget. This is Steve Carlton. Steve Carlton pitched for the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, I was never a Philadelphia Philly fan, but Steve Carlton pitched for the Phillies, and Tom Seaver pitched for the Mets. And I'll never forget being a kid going to Shea Stadium when Tom Seaver battled Steve Carlton, the Phillies, watching them pitch. Yes, I'll never forget. Never forget. So, as I close, we're going to 250 years. All right. And I don't like where we're at on some things. And I say this because, Willie Mays came back to New York. He came back to New York and he played for the Mets in 1972 and 1973. And I'm serious. I'm trying to push back tears. I really am. He played for the Mets in 1972 and 1973. And my dad took us to Shea Stadium in 1973. I got to see Willie Mays play. Now, I did not get to see Willie Mays through the prime of his career as a baseball player, the great Willie Mays. But in 1973, I got to see him play outfield for the New York Mets at Shea Stadium. There was never a day. He was a hero. We loved him. We would go play baseball. And we would all pretend to be our favorite player. And you think a white kid stepping up to bat saying, I'm Reggie Jackson? Do you think playing the outfield pretending you're Willie Mays is a white kid? We never gave it a second thought. We didn't think about that. Now, I understand the world has a lot of troubles, and even back then there were racial issues, but as kids, we didn't. I tell this story, and people look at me like I'm from outer space. When we went to the baseball field, I come from the generation of the black male afro. Yes. With the Andre Banks, I'll never forget him. I loved him as a kid. I absolutely loved the guy. Andre Banks with his baseball hat and the afro. You can go look at the 70s pictures. When you showed up at the field for our daily game, we didn't care if you were Jewish. We didn't care if you were Yugoslavian. We didn't care if you were German, Catholic. We didn't care if you were, Lutheran, Baptist, right? We didn't care. We didn't care black, Jewish, white. We did not care. German. The only criteria you had to come up and play was, can you catch the ball? And the other one was, do you have a glove? Do you have a glove? I'm going to close with this right here. We used to, as in our bicycle, we never rode our bicycle that we didn't hook our glove to the handlebar. Now, if you understand that, you'll understand that. If not, you won't. But this is part of great history in this country. When you left the morning on your bicycle, you may not have been going out to play baseball, but you slid your baseball glove, the strap, over the handlebar, and you rode everywhere with your baseball glove. Why? Well, what if you were 3 blocks away and a baseball game broke out? Why, you had to have your glove. You can't play if you don't have a glove. So you would drop your bike. Seriously, this is serious. You drop your bike, you stand on the curb, and you yell, "Hey, can I get in the game?" You know what they'd say back? "You got a glove?" It wasn't, "Are you this color? Are you that color? Are you, what? No. They would say, "You got a glove?" "Yeah, I got my glove on my bike." Now, if you didn't have a glove, that kind of told them that, you probably shouldn't be playing in their game. You didn't even bring your glove. It goes everywhere. Do you have your glove? Do you have your glove? Had nothing to do with anything else. God bless this country. I'd like to get that back. If the kids want to play soccer, they can play soccer. If they want to participate in other things. But God, I'd like to get that back. And stop identifying everybody and putting everybody in a column. Maybe make it as simple as, "Hey, you got your glove?" America, the beautiful, the land of the free. Can't wait for Saturday. Can't wait. God bless you. I hope today being Wednesday, I can get back before the end of the week and do another program. I have 2 here to do. Go to our Substack. All right, go to our Substack and check it out, where we keep all of our articles. I had to do a segment on the Supreme Court. Like I said, I just really didn't like the arguing that went on yesterday, although I don't care for the decisions. And until we meet again, we're going to take, as I like to call it, a brief break. I'm your host, BKP. You're watching BKP Politics on voiceofrural America.com. Now we'll take a brief break.